Sophia curled the corners of her mouth at the phone camera, but the corner of her eye twitched uncontrollably. The number of viewers in the top right corner of the live stream showed 23,000, and a string of pink hearts drifted across the comment section. Thank you, my darlings. Today, Luca made tiramisu specially just for you. She leaned sideways to reveal half of the dining table. Outside the camera frame, the aroma of cream mixed with coffee liqueur had already turned sour. The phone stand suddenly vibrated. She caught a glimpse of a notification popping up at the top of the screen from the monitoring app. Luca was checking the real-time tip data. 3 seconds later, his message bubble appeared. Gifts are 37% less than yesterday. Sit up straight. Look at how beautiful this cream pattern is, babies. Sophia deliberately leaned forward to reach for a napkin, the neckline of her silk nightgown brushing against her collarbone. The comments section immediately exploded with virtual fireworks, and an account named Old John from Milan consecutively sent 3 yacht special effects. Her throat tightened, and she dug her nails into her palm under the tablecloth. The monitoring app flickered again, this time with a voice message. She pretended to fix her hair and tapped her earbud. Luca's lowered voice slipped in her ear like a snake's tongue. Accidentally do that once more, and tomorrow's sponsor's bag is yours. The live stream filter suddenly froze for half a second. Sophia saw her puffy eyelids in the camera. The bruise from crashing into the doorframe during last night's argument was turning blue under her foundation. Someone in the comments asked, "Sis, why are your eyes red?" She was about to speak when her phone suddenly vibrated repeatedly. 2 text messages popped up, overlapping each other. One was from Luca, must hit 5,000 euros by 9 p.m. The other was from Marco. Want to test drive the new Mini? Sunday at 10. You know, I like how the passenger seat reclines flat. Attached was a photo of a bright yellow car. In the window reflection, her father-in-law's camel Burberry scarf was visible. Sorry, babies. The oven timer went off. Sophia suddenly raised her voice. Viewers watched her stumble to her feet, and the sound of porcelain shattering came from outside the frame. By the time the filter reloaded, she was back in front of the camera, the curve of her mouth looking as if it had been glued in place. Someone in the comments asked for the tiramisu recipe. She recited the lines mechanically. You need to add mascarpone cheese and ladyfingers. Her voice grew softer and softer. The monitoring app vibrated a 3rd time, this time with a numerical reminder. Current tips for 1,820 euros. Actually, Sophia suddenly gripped the edge of the counter, her nails scraping against the metal trim with a harsh squeak. Sometimes the ladyfingers are too crisp. They break as soon as you touch them. She stared at the crescent-shaped bite mark on the inside of her forearm, the one Luca had left last week when he'd called it playful. Her phone vibrated again. Marco had sent a new message. The dealership said they can throw in a child's safety seat. The attached photo was of her son Tommaso at kindergarten. Sophia's stomach lurched violently, and viewers watched her suddenly double over, leaving only a trembling section of her spine in the frame. I'll be right back. She forced out the words and rushed to the bathroom. After locking the door behind her, vomit mixed with tears splattered onto the tile. Outside the door, Luca's voice rose deliberately. Honey, do you need help? This was followed by a lowered whisper. Either get back out there and keep going now, or you'll never see Tommaso again. When Sophia looked up, she saw herself in the mirror, her lipstick smudged and messy. She suddenly remembered the first time she'd met Luca, when he'd said she looked like a goddess from a Titian painting. Now, as she stared at the red-rimmed eyes of the woman in the mirror, she finally understood why those Renaissance painters had always loved mixing cinnabar to create the hue of blood. She gazed at the smudged lipstick in the mirror, her fingertips unconsciously brushing the cracks along the edge of the sink. Outside the door, the heel of Luca's leather shoe tapped against the tile in a steady rhythm, like a countdown. 30 more seconds for you. His voice came through the door, laced with a sticky, honeyed smile. The audience is asking where their sweet streamer went. She turned on the faucet. Cold water rushed over her wrists, making her skin tingle. The medical checkup report from 3 days ago was still hidden in the lining of her makeup bag. She'd scratched the line that said, HPV-16 positive repeatedly with her nails. Almost ready, she heard herself say, her voice rough, as if sanded down. When she returned to the live stream, the comment section was flooded with questions about her health. Luca was leaning against the counter cutting fruit, the blade glinting coldly just out of the camera's view. Darling's just a little anemic, he answered for her with a smile, shoving a slice of orange, still dotted with blood, into her mouth. Right, baby. The orange juice was so sour it stung her eyes. Suddenly, a video call request from Marco popped up on the screen, and Luca hit accept before she could react. Don't forget the test drive on Sunday. Her father-in-law's face squeezed into the frame. The pores on either side of his nose looked like blurry splotches under the filter. The dealership just got an RV with a panoramic sunroof. He licked his lips. Perfect for taking Tommaso to see the stars in the Dolomites. Sophia's fork clattered onto her plate. After Marco had taken their son out camping alone last week, Tommaso had cried in the middle of the night, saying his bottom hurt. Medical bills are expensive, aren't they? Marco suddenly lowered his voice, tracing circles on the steering wheel with his finger. I know the director of a private hospital. Lucas suddenly reached out to adjust the camera angle. The movement caused his suit cuff to roll up, revealing the bloodstains from the scratches Sophia had left yesterday. She shot to her feet, and viewers watched as she knocked over her coffee cup, brown liquid spreading across the snow-white tablecloth. I'll get a cloth, she said hoarsely, digging her nails into the old scars on her palm. Hidden in the kitchen drawer was an old phone recording everything. She could hear Luca speaking rapidly in Italian, repeating words like diagnosis and custody. The cloud drive login notice tucked under the fridge magnet trembled slightly. It was a record of an unfamiliar device login she'd only discovered that morning. Need help? Luca's voice suddenly sounded behind her. As Sophia turned, she knocked over the salt shaker. Grains of salt scattered across the stovetop like tiny teeth. He reached out to smooth her hair, and the wedding ring on his ring finger pressed painfully against her temple. You smell like hospital disinfectant, he chuckled in her ear. Next time you go for a checkup, remember to ask me to come along. The live stream suddenly exploded with a flurry of tip effects. Marco's face still dominated half the screen. He was demonstrating how to recline the RV's back seat flat, the leather squeaking in a sickening way. Look at this, babies. Luca suddenly dragged her back in front of camera, pulling so hard she crashed in a counter. Instinctively, she clutched her lower abdomen, where bruises still lingered. Someone in the comments asked, "Is Sis pregnant?" Marco's laughter blared through the speaker. Then we'll definitely need to prepare 2 child safety seats. Sophia watched as Luca pretended to affectionately wrap his arm around her shoulders. The thread on the third button of his shirt was loose. It had come undone when she'd torn it during their argument last week. Now that thin thread hung down, like a noose on the verge of breaking. I need to change clothes. She broke free, the back of her silk nightgown already soaked with sweat. Someone had touched the diagnosis report in her bedroom drawer. The edges were neatly folded, as if it had never been opened 20 times. Blurry numbers were scrawled on the dressing table mirror in lipstick. Maybe a bank account number or the date of next week's court hearing. Tommaso's cries suddenly came from downstairs. As Sophia rushed toward the stairs, she saw Luca holding their son's hand, blowing kisses at the camera. There was a fresh red mark on the child's wrist, shaped like an adult's canine teeth. Mama! Tommaso struggled to break free and ran toward her. The scent of his baby's shampoo was mixed with an unfamiliar cologne. As Sophia hugged him tightly, she felt a small, shiny piece of candy wrapper stuck to the back of his neck. It was the packaging from the mints in Marco's car. The number of viewers hit 50,000. Out of the camera's sight, Luca mouthed 3 words to her, cloud drive password. Sophia stared at his moving lips, the shape of those words slipping into her pupils like a venomous snake. Cloud drive password. He'd definitely found the recording file she'd backed up. In her arms, Tommaso suddenly squirmed, grabbing her collar and crying that he was hungry. I'll make dinner for my baby right away, she said, hurrying toward the fridge to hide her trembling fingers. Inside the refrigerator were live stream props carefully arranged by Luca, salmon sashimi garnished with edible gold leaf. The comment section was still flooding. Where can we get the same parent-child outfits? Sis, teach us how to keep a marriage fresh. Sophia mechanically took out a carton of milk, only to find the expiration date label had been reattached. The fresh milk she bought last week couldn't possibly still have 3 days left before expiring. Mama, it hurts, Tommaso said, tugging at her sleeve, just as the live stream filter froze. Annie, who was rewatching the recording, suddenly saw the purple bruise on the inside of Sophia's forearm, like a crescent-shaped brand. Annie, her boyfriend Wong, burst into the living room with a drone in his hand. Do you think the shooting angle works? There was still engine oil on the tip of his nose. Annie hit pause, the frame freezing on Sophia's twitching eye. Help me keep an eye on this live stream. I'm going to the convenience store. As she grabbed her jacket, her phone automatically connected to Sophia's home Wi-Fi. She'd deliberately run into the streamer at a cafe the previous month. The cold air from the convenience store's freezer hit her face. Annie pretended to pick out beer, but her eyes were fixed on the real-time surveillance on her phone. The motion sensor light in Sophia's backyard suddenly turned on, and Marco's camel scarf fluttered in the night wind like a venomous snake. "Juan Odin?" the clerk asked. Annie shook her head. As she scanned her phone to pay, her nail scratched the screen, accidentally tapping the live stream tip button. Suddenly, her ID popped up in Sophia's live stream. Annie the Milan student sends a Carnival ×1. Luca immediately sent her a private message. Thank you for your support, family, with a smiling emoji attached. Annie stared at the emoji, remembering how her father had used the same symbol to brush off her mother when he was having an affair. Did you get the shot? Her voice trembled as she sent a voice message to Wong Lei. The footage from the drone showed Marco unlocking the back door of Sophia's house with a key. The spare key Luca had lost last week. In the kitchen, Sophia heard the sound of the door lock turning. The spilled milk spread across the tile like a pale, sticky pool. Tommaso suddenly fell silent, and the plastic spoon in his hand snapped in two. Grandpa's here to play with you. Marco's voice drifted in, mixed with the smell of his cologne. The corner of a children's fever medicine package peeked out of his suit pocket. The very kind Tommaso was allergic to. It was then that Annie's private message popped up. I saw your arm injury. Do you need help? Sophia had barely touched the screen when Luca snatched the phone away. The fans are so enthusiastic, he said with a smile, typing a reply. His finger hesitated for half a second between no need and thanks for your concern. Darling, Marco brought the new car catalog. Luca held the phone up to her face, showing that the message had been read. His thumb brushed casually over the Cloud Drive icon, and suddenly a photo taken that morning of Tommaso's medical checkup report popped up in the photo album. Marco was teaching his grandson to fold paper airplanes, and a hospital flyer in his hand was folded into a sharp triangle. The kindergarten entrance physical exam. He drawled, jabbing the sharp tip of the paper airplane into Tommaso's hand. Sophia lunged forward, knocking over the phone on the counter. Viewers watched as the camera spun wildly, finally freezing on a crack in the ceiling. In the background, Marco's laughter could be heard. Why so worked up? I didn't even mention HPV. Annie's drone nearly crashed into a sycamore tree. In night vision mode, Marco's retreating figure dragged a long shadow. The object he bent down to pick up glinted with a metallic sheen. It was Sophia's wedding ring. Try again. Wong Lei adjusted the focus, then lowered his voice. The police. A patrol car was slowly driving down the street, its roof camera turning toward the windows of Sophia's house. Through a gap in the curtains, Sophia saw the police lights flashing. Her palm was etched with deep marks from clutching her wedding ring. Luca was humming in the bathroom, and the sound of running water couldn't muffle his words, still missing the original medical records for the evidence chain. Annie's third private message showed read, but not replied. She didn't know that Luca was currently using Sophia's account to send her a voice message. Thanks for your concern. It's just a minor fall. In the background, there was a steady tapping sound, like Morse code for SOS. Sophia stared at the read but not replied message on her phone screen, her fingertips brushing the cold glass. The water in the bathroom turned off, and the sound of Luca's slippers grew closer. "The fans are really worried about you," he said, his wet hair dripping water as he held the phone up to her. "Want to reply?" She looked at the comments section of her account, which had exploded. The top pinned comment was an anonymously posted audio clip. The dealership said they can throw in a child's safety seat. Marco's greasy voice crawled into her eardrums like a cockroach. "This is fake." Lucas suddenly raised his voice, swiping his finger rapidly across the screen. "Someone's trying to ruin our family." The comment section had split into two camps. Some people left messages saying, "Sis, call the police quickly," while more were spamming "the script is so fake" and desperate for fame. Sophia's stomach twisted into a knot. She saw an account named Sociological Observation post a string of links. "Don't look at this garbage." Luca snatched the phone away, but the corner of his mouth lifted slightly. "The lawyer will handle the defamation tomorrow." Sophia excused herself to get a glass of water and slipped into the kitchen. Through the steam from the boiling kettle, she tremblingly opened the Sociological Observation homepage. The title of the latest paper stabbed at her eyes: Emotional Exploitation and Digital Labor in Cross-Border Marriages. The paper's accompanying photo was an old picture of her from 3 years ago, when she participated in a cooking competition. Back then, the light in her eyes hadn't yet gone out. Someone in the comment section had tagged her. "Is this you?" The poster's ID was Isabella 1983. The fridge suddenly hummed. She turned around and saw Luca standing in the shadows, holding Tommaso's asthma inhaler. "Which story do you think netizens will believe?" He shook the inhaler. The perfect housewife or the mentally ill mother? Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Isabella had sent a private message. "The third case in the paper references your live stream data." The attached photo made Sophia's pupils contract. Marco's Mercedes parked in front of a domestic violence shelter, dated last Wednesday. "The milk spilled," Lucas suddenly said. She looked down and saw white liquid dripping down the counter, exactly like the cold disinfectant gel used during her medical checkup. "I'll get a cloth," she said. As she bent down, she knocked over the keychain in the drawer. The brass keys bounced across the tile, finally stopping next to a folded note. The note was written in Italian, 14 Rose Lane, and the handwriting matched the one in the paper's author bio. Luca's leather shoes appeared at the edge of her vision. "So clumsy." He picked up the keys but ignored the note. Sophia pressed the note under her foot, and her skin could feel the texture of the paper. "Tommaso needs his medicine," she said, her voice so calm it scared even herself. When she walked into the children's room, her son was coloring an entire sheet of paper with crayons, bright red lines crisscrossing like blood vessels. "Mama, it hurts," he said, pointing to the scab scrape on his knee. Sophia suddenly recognized the crayons. Marco had given them to Tommaso last week, and the packaging was printed with the logo of the private hospital. Her phone vibrated again. Isabella had sent a new message. The comment section of the paper has a diagram of the surveillance blind spots. The attached photo was a close-up of a supermarket locker's combination lock, and in the glass reflection, the irises on Sophia's balcony were visible. Luca cleared his throat outside the door. "The sponsor asked if we could take a family photo tomorrow." He was holding brand-new parent-child outfits, the tags still uncut. Sophia noticed the size was 2 sizes too small for Tommaso, and the neck label read contains fluorescent agents. "Okay," she agreed, quietly tucking the note into her sock. The edge of the paper scraped a red mark on her ankle, like a fresh wound. Tommaso suddenly started coughing, his little face turning bright red. Luca frowned and handed over the inhaler. "Don't end up in the hospital again. We still haven't paid the medical bills from last time." As Sophia patted her son's back, she caught a glimpse of the paper's updated chapter during a break in his coughing. The newly added case read, "When children become tools of control, abusers often forge medical records." The sound of running water suddenly came from the bathroom. Luca had forgotten to turn off the faucet, and the mirror was fogged up with hot steam. When Sophia reached out to wipe the mirror, she saw her fingerprints forming 3 numbers in the mist. 3:17. Mama, I'm cold. Tommaso tugged at the hem of her clothes. She looked down and saw a needle mark on her son's hand, surrounded by an unnatural purple bruise. The notification chime for Isabella's private message sounded like a lifeline. The locker has a copy of the child's emergency medical records. Sophia's nails dug into her palm, where the crescent-shaped marks from Luca's grip during their last struggle still remained. Luca appeared at the door, drying his hair. "Why are you shaking?" Water droplets slid down his collarbone, soaking a spot on the parent-child outfit advertisement. In the slogan, "Freeze the happy moment," the Chinese character Xing, meaning happiness, was blurred by water, its form morphing into a likeness of the Chinese character Xin, meaning suffering. Just a little cold. Sophia held her son tighter. The warmth of the child's body seeped through his pajamas, hot like a piece of charcoal. The comment section of the paper suddenly refreshed. Medical control in cross-border marriages is often seen in. The poster had a blue badge indicating they were a shelter volunteer. Sophia stared at the comment until the screen turned off automatically. That eye in the mirror, Luca was standing behind her, holding Tommaso's asthma inhaler like a gun. "Smile," he said to Sophia in the mirror. The court summons arrived. Sophia's fingertips dug into the fabric of her son's pajamas. Tommaso's breath smelled of sickly, sweet medicine, the distinctive strawberry flavor of the special medicine Marco had given him. The custody hearing is tomorrow. Luca tucked the inhaler into his suit pocket. The metal clinked against his phone. The application for dividing the account earnings was also approved. He tilted his head, savoring her sudden pale face. Surprised? The sound of clinking porcelain came from the kitchen. Marco was making coffee, humming a tune from Ave Maria. "Prayer time," he said, crossing himself in the direction of the police station. The gold watch on his wrist glinted coldly. Sophia felt the note in her sock. Isabella's handwriting burned like a brand on her ankle, and the ink from 14, Rose Lane, had smudged slightly with sweat. "Which one do you think the judge will believe?" Luca suddenly grabbed her left hand. The wedding ring dug a deep groove into her ring finger. "The medical records of a mentally ill mother, or," he lowered his voice, "the domestic violence video accusing you of child abuse?" Tommaso's crayon snapped with a crack. Red wax dripped onto the lawsuit papers like a pool of fresh blood. Marco approached, carrying a cup of coffee, and a photo was pressed under the cup of Sophia pulling her hair in the emergency room, dated the day she'd been diagnosed with HPV. "When you give your statement at the police station," Marco's lips brushed her earlobe, "don't forget the photo of our family in the church's confession booth." His phone lock screen lit up at the right moment. It was a photo of him with the police chief, taken in front of the church's stained glass windows. That Sophia's stomach lurched. The live stream tip notification suddenly blared. Chin Annie had sent another virtual yacht. Luca raised his eyebrows. "Your little fan is quite persistent. Need a witness?" Marco sipped his coffee, his lips stained with lipstick. The kindergarten teacher would be happy to testify that someone often forgets to pick up her child. He twisted his wedding ring, and the engraving "Family First" on the inner band glinted with a cold light. Sophia felt the cold sweat on her son's back. The sound of turning pages came from the children's room. The wind had blown Isabella's paper to the medical manipulation chapter, and Marco's Mercedes license plate was clearly visible in the case photo. "Oh, right." Luca pulled a folder out of his briefcase. "Your psychological evaluation report." He deliberately flipped to the page marked "Delusional Tendencies," and the doctor's signature was stamped with the private hospital's eagle emblem. Marco's phone vibrated. The police station's caller ID appeared on the screen, and he pressed the speakerphone button. "Yes, Chief. The whole family is praying right now." He winked at Sophia. "Of course, she's voluntarily dropping the charges." Tommaso suddenly started coughing violently. Sophia reached for the inhaler, but Luca grabbed it first and held it up high. "Say, I voluntarily withdraw the charges, and I'll give it to you." He shook the inhaler, and the liquid inside sloshed with a dangerous sound that a new comment suddenly popped up in the live stream. Chun Annie had typed in all caps, "Drone footage has been backed up. The attached photo was a surveillance screenshot of Marco leaving late at night, time-stamped the evening Tommaso had supposedly had an allergic reaction. Bitch! Luca smashed the coffee cup. Brown liquid splattered onto the lawsuit papers. Marco held his shoulder, but his voice was laced with laughter. The police car is right downstairs, remember? Sophia's nails dug into her palm. Isabella's final private message flashed in her mind. Locker 317. She looked at her son's flushed little face, then suddenly grabbed a lighter and set fire to the psychological evaluation report. The flames illuminated Luca's distorted face. Are you crazy? He lunged at her, knocking over the desk lamp. In the shadows, Marco's gold watch chain was tangled with a keychain shaped like a child's handcuff. Mama! Tommaso's cries cut at Sophia's nerves like a dull knife. She grabbed the salt shaker from the stove and smashed it hard against the smoke detector. Amid the shrill alarm, Marco's prayer got stuck in his throat. The sound of police shouting came from downstairs, and Chun Annie's drone hovered outside the window, its red light flashing in a steady rhythm, like a beating heart. Sophia tucked Tommaso into the bottom of the supermarket shopping cart, covering his trembling little body with a down jacket. Mama's going to buy candy, she whispered, drawing a quick cross in her son's palm with her finger. It was then that Chun Annie's text message arrived. Third row in the fresh produce section. Sophia caught a glimpse of Luca picking out red wine in the imported food section, and Marco's camel scarf flickering in a surveillance blind spot. Excuse me, she said, pushing the cart and knocking over a promotional display. Oranges rolled across the floor. A uniformed staff member bent down to pick them up, blocking Luca's view just in time. Sophia slipped into the women's restroom and locked herself in a stall, only to find her palm covered in blood. Her nails had already dug through her skin. It's me. A USB drive was slid under the partition. Chun Annie's nail polish was chipped on one corner. The video has timestamps of Marco coming and going, and she suddenly fell silent as the sound of high heels tapping on tile came from outside. Sophia tucked the USB drive into the lining of her bra. The metal edge was cold enough to make her shiver. Chun Annie slid a second item through the gap, a tube of lipstick. Twist it all the way down, she said, barely moving her lips. Isabella said it can interfere with phone monitoring. The restroom door was thrown open suddenly. Ma'am, do you need help? A security guard's voice mixed with walkie-talkie static. Sophia bit open the lipstick cap. The lipstick gave off a strange, minty smell, and a tiny chip was hidden at the bottom. Almost done, she said, flushing the toilet. The sound of running water drowned out the faint hum of the chip activating. A message from Isabella suddenly popped up on her phone screen. Remote control disabled. You have 23 minutes now. Another phone was slid under the stall door. Chun Annie's lock screen displayed the drone control interface. The live stream button is set as a shortcut. Her voice was tight. My boyfriend is waiting in the truck. License plate ends with 317. Sophia felt the toy phone Tommaso had hidden in the shopping cart. Its screen was cracked like a spiderweb. She suddenly remembered what Marco had said when he'd smashed her real phone. Modern people are like naked without a phone. They went to the cold storage room. Chun Annie's breath fogged the stall door. When you go live, remember to turn off cloud backup first. Luca bought a data recovery service. Luca's impatient cough sounded from outside. Sophia tucked the toy phone back into the shopping cart. Her real phone was burning against her thigh. Isabella sent another message. Remember, the medical records are in locker B14. Darling, Luca's voice was suddenly right outside. The tip of his leather shoe appeared under the gap in the door. Tommaso's crying for you. The shopping cart squeaked, and the child's thin cries cut at Sophia's eardrums like a dull knife. The moment she pressed the live stream button, the restroom lights started flickering. A filter loading failed, message popped up, and the camera showed her directly. Her chapped lips, the bruise peeking through her foundation. No cooking today. Her voice sounded strange even to herself. Let me show you what a real cross-border marriage looks like. The USB drive made a soft click as she plugged it into the charging port, and the first video file began playing automatically. Luca's fist slammed against the stall door. Open up. The rattle of the lock mixed with Marco's lewd laughter from the video. The child seat reclines flat. Sophia pointed the phone camera at Luca's leather shoes under the gap. He was kicking the security guard's shin. "This is the gentle husband you all like," she said, zooming in on the bloodstain on the tip of his shoe. "Last week, he kicked my coccyx until it broke." The shopping cart was suddenly shoved hard against the stall door, denting the wood. Tommaso's cries stopped abruptly, and Marco's voice came through the video. "Cry again, and I'll lock your mama in a mental hospital." "The locker key is in the baby's sock," Chun Annie suddenly said in Chinese, pressing her body against the shaking door. Sophia felt the hard metal against her son's ankle, cold against his feverish skin. When the number of live stream viewers hit 100,000, Lucas started calling the police in Italian. Marco's scarf was caught in the door gap. Sophia grabbed it and pulled hard. Child handcuff keys fell out from under the camel cashmere. "Let's watch part 2 of the VCR," she said, clicking on the medical records. On Tommaso's allergy test report, Marco's flamboyant signature was annotated with "recommend increasing dosage." The comments section exploded with messages tagging the police. Chun Annie suddenly screamed as the stall door burst open. Sophia saw the drone hovering outside the vent, its red light like congealed blood. "Bitch!" Luca lunged at her, and the live stream camera captured his twisted face perfectly. Sophia stepped back, shielding her son, and her back hit the cold tile. Marco's gold watch peeked through the vent, its face reflecting the police car's blue light. "You're finished," Lucas suddenly laughed, holding up his phone, which was still on a call. "My lawyer says this counts as invasion of privacy." The live stream on the screen suddenly froze. The number of viewers stuck at 999. Sophia felt the lipstick in her pocket. The mini smell suddenly became so strong it choked her. Isabella's final message flashed on the screen, signal jamming activated. "Now they really can't see you." Sophia stared at Isabella's message, her fingers scraping the edge of the phone until they bleed. Luca's laughter suddenly died in his throat as he stared at his blacked-out phone. "What's going on?" Marco's gold watch reflected the drone's red light. He reached out to yank Sophia's hair. "Turn off the live stream." Sophia dodged sideways, and the camera captured Marco's contorted face clearly. "Look closely, everyone," she said, her voice trembling but surprisingly clear. "This is the model parishioner who goes to confession every Sunday." Tommaso suddenly climbed out of the shopping cart, holding up his toy phone. "Grandpa said this is our secret," he said. The screen lit up, showing blurry bathroom surveillance footage. Marco pouring a clear liquid into children's body wash. The number of live stream viewers jumped wildly, and the comments section exploded with the word "monster." Luca lunged for the phone, but Sophia pushed him away with her knee. The sound of her silk nightgown tearing mixed with her son's screams. "Don't be scared, baby," she held Tommaso with one arm, while opening the cloud drive with the other. "Mama will show everyone the real diagnosis report." The HPV-positive report was enlarged in front of the camera, and the doctor's signature was stamped with the official seal of the private hospital Marco co-owned, that Marco's scarf wrapped around her wrist. "Do you really think anyone will believe you?" He pulled open his suit inner pocket, revealing a community service medal issued by the police station. "What about this?" Sophia pressed play. The recording filled with Marco's sticky laughter. The dealership said the RV's back seat reclines flat. "I've got plenty of the medicine your son is allergic to." Luca suddenly fell silent, straightening the bloodstains on his cuff. "Delusional recordings from a schizophrenic," he said, pulling out court documents. "The judge has already approved involuntary treatment." The drone suddenly dove toward the window. Chun Annie's voice blared through a megaphone. "The police have received the complete video." The night vision footage captured by the drone was synced to the live stream, showing Marco carrying the unconscious Tommaso in and out of the villa late at night. Fake footage. Marco tore off his scarf to block the camera, revealing the child handcuffs underneath. The number of real Tim.